What's going on, Malakis? VNNCZ3 here, and in this video, instead of me telling you what the best rares and or uncommon champions that you can pull out of all the shards you're going to be getting out of the game, because let's be real with one another, RNGesus isn't everybody's friend. That's all I'm going to say about that. Not only that, but some champions require extra skill books to be any good, and well, as a free-to-play player or even moderate pay-to-play player, skill books can still be really hard to acquire. So I would rather go over what the best rare and or uncommon champions are that you can actually start to farm, so that you can take your own gaming experience, your own fate into your own hands, instead of just waiting around to, get a Bellower to clear all your waves, or an Ava or a Ray, or whatever the case may be is, right? So without further ado, I'm on my Smurf account, and if you'd like me to do an account overview, let me know in the comments section. I'd love to show you guys how I have this account set up. But anyways, let's go ahead and just dive right into it, shall we? Let's go to the campaign. Starting off with Chapter 1 here, we have my homeboy Conqueror. Literally, if you lift up this guy's visor, it's going to say, "I eat magic, And it's also going to say, "Oh, Ice Golem, there's a tear for you." It's basically what it's going to say, because his A1, it hits twice. That's pretty darn good. But his A2, literally, you can farm him down to a 2-turn cooldown on this bad boy, and he's going to strip 2 buffs off of whatever he's hitting. Literally every 2 turns. This is a very good champion for Magic Keep. Not only that, but Purge. Literally, you can get down to a 3-turn clock. Like, it's really good. And it's going to block champions that he hits and kills from being able to be revived. So not only is this champion really good in Ice Golem, but he's great in Magic Keep. All around, solid champion to get. And you can personally farm him literally on normal or whatever difficulty you can actually go ahead and do. Next, we got Chapter 2, and that's going to be Skull Swarm. This champion, just to start off with here, is pretty darn amazing, okay? It's got a 30% chance, once skilled up, to basically place an additional hit. So it's going to go 1, 2, and possibly go 1, 2, 3. Now, you always want to build this champion full crit to take advantage of the passive. Fills this champion meter up by 15% if they get a crit, 50% if they end up getting a kill. Well, their A2 ability, which by the way goes down to a 4-turn cooldown with counterattack for 2 turns, by the way. All I'm saying right now is this champion actually doesn't get enough praise. It's kind of low-key OP for being a rare champion. Next up, we got Skinner. Literally a triple attack A1. Very, very good champion. If you're trying to farm things like Fire Knight Castle or whatever the case may be is, this champion will actually do it for you. It really will. I mean, the A2, it's pretty good. It's kind of reminiscent of the Conqueror, but it's on a 3-turn cooldown. So, hypothetically speaking, you could level this champion up as well with Conqueror to basically make sure the enemy champion or whoever it is that you're fighting has 0 buffs pretty much at all times. Unfortunately, there really isn't any champions in Chapter 3 that I would recommend getting and farming, because either they can't reliably put a debuff on, or they're just all around low damage, or they have certain skills that don't really work on certain bosses like freeze and things like that. Moving on to Chapter 4 here, we've got Spirit Host, and I'm telling you right now, Scoobs, this could easily be an epic champion, not a problem. The A1 is absolutely amazing. Like, boom, heals for 50% of the damage inflicted. Very nice. That's all I'm going to say about that. The A2, it's kind of okay. I'm not going to praise her based off the A2, because it's not all champions use attack as their main primary way of doing damage, so it's kind of eh. But the A3, really nice actually. It removes all the debuffs on all your allies, and then places a block debuff for 1 solid turn. Very nice. And the aura, it's pretty decent actually. I mean, 10% speed in all battles. You could have her as your leader, and she's going to do good. But let's just take a second here to look at the aesthetics of this champion. Really nice. Like, they actually did really well on this champion. That's all I'm going to say about that. Moving on to Chapter 5 here, we really only have 1 of 2 selections we can make, and I'm going to go with Brute, because his A1 is absolutely amazing. Has 2 random attacks that come out, 50% chance on crit to apply a 5% poison debuff for 1 turn. I'm letting you know right now, Scoobs, if you had to pick between a Brute and, let's say, a Conqueror for the clan boss, 1,000,000,000% go with Brute. Why? Because champions that typically can put debuffs like poisons and HP burns end up being more valuable to your team as far as damage goes, and other debuffs sometimes are a little bit more utilized or needed for that type of situation. And I would highly recommend always building your 4 to 5 champions to start off with for the clan boss in mind because, well, more gear equals better farming, equals easier farming, equals more gear, equals all that good stuff. Moving on to chapter 6, we have the Avenger. Her A1, in my opinion, is sort of reliable to put a decreased defense on the target because when she's skilled up, because when you're farming these champions, you just basically feed copies of themselves, well, to themselves, and that's how you get their skills up. The A2 and A3, I'm not going to really talk about because they're not really anything to brag about, but her A1, if you don't have a champion that can kind of reliably put down that decreased defense, then I would recommend getting yourself an Avenger because, well, I mean, 50% chance, put a decreased defense, not bad for a free-to-play champion. I will mention Eris kind of as more of a meme, to be honest with you, because her passive, it's got a one-turn cooldown. If they erase this one-turn cooldown, she would absolutely make the list. Like, not a problem. She'd be like the first champion I talk about because the counterattack when an ally is attacked, if you have if you have 4 of these champions on your team, anytime any of them are attacked, they all pretty much just shoot the same target. It's pretty funny in my opinion, okay? Also, if I remember correctly, they use their A1 when they counterattack. So, if they end up killing the target, it grants them an extra turn if it's killed. Don't quote me on that one, Scoops. I haven't really tested this one out, and I don't think I'm going to, but it's really not all that bad. And then her exhortation isn't so terribly bad, but aside from that, yeah, I mean, she's more of a meme champion in my opinion because of her Avenger passive, and I just mentioned Avenger. Unfortunately, there really isn't any champions in Chapter 7 that I'd like to mention. In Chapter 8, we have one of the more unique / iconic champions in my opinion, and that happens to be the Templar, because if you're doing the campaign or you're doing any dungeons or even just the arena in general, you understand that there's a lot of debuffs going on, and this champion's going to be like, debuff? That's basically what's going to happen, Scoobs. And he's going to come after you. He's going to want that lunch money. That's all I'm going to say about that. Not only that, but like the A1's not really anything to brag about, but that A2 though, let me go ahead and give you that scenario right now. It's going to be like this. Oh yeah? Bloop. You can't touch me. You can't touch me. Nah, 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 nah. That's basically what's going to happen. And in my opinion, if you have a full meme team of like 4 Templars, because I've done this on this account before, where I took 4 Templars inside the arena, and it was just really funny because there'd be like one champion that'd go decrease defense on all my champions, and like all 4 of my Templars would be like, what did you go back? Boom, 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 boom. And that's pretty much what happens. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's kind of funny to see it happen. And not only that, but it's even funnier to see when he goes ahead and taunts all the targets, and they can't do anything about it. They just, all you can do is just kind of sit there and suffer. I mean, that's all I'm going to say about that. Another champion I'd like to make a note here is the Aeoman. The A1, now, I don't want people to really overlook this because it's low-key kind of really strong, especially like in Fire Knight or Fire, whatever it is, Castle, I forget the guy's name. Anyways, attack one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 10% chance to decrease the meter by 20%. Ugh! If you got this guy, if you put 5 of this champion on your team, real talk, the boss would never take a turn. This is basically a common allure on an A1 ability. So, you know, you skill him up, you just need 5 copies of him to go inside of himself, get him some really decent gear in there, and basically they're going to go brap, 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 and kill the waves really fast. Once they get to the fire boss, they're going to essentially drop his shield really quickly, and then, well, let's just go ahead and put it out there. He's never going to really ever take a turn because you got to figure here, right? That's a 25% chance per shot to decrease that turn meter by 20%. That is a hefty amount. I don't know. I'd like to try it out, but I really don't feel like 6-starring 5 of these bad boys just to gear them out, just to do all that. It would be the dream come true. That's all I'm going to say about that. Moving on to Chapter 9 here, we've got Berserker. This is a really solid champion. It really, truly is. I can't say anything negative about him because, well, realistically, fills this champion turn meter 30% if this attack is a crit hit. Very, very good campaign, very good dungeon champion. I wouldn't say very good clan boss champion, but, you know, let's just, you got to give some to give some, you know what I mean? You got to take some, yada, yada. Anyways, the A2, pretty darn good too. If it kills a target, you get an extra turn. And then, well, the A3, ascend him, ignores 20% of the target's defense, hits all enemies ×2. Really solid champion all around. That's all I'm going to say about that. Another champion worth of note here happens to be the Spirit Walker because, well, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 20, 30, 45% chance of placing a minus 25 attack decrease debuff for 2 turns. Like, it's pretty darn good if you ask me. I mean, it's a reliable way of putting attack down on the clan boss. That's all I'm going to say about that. Her A2, it's nothing to really brag about, to be honest with you. It does remove all the debuffs off the champion and places a 2-turn increased attack, so you can essentially have it up 100% of the time. I just would recommend sticking to her A1 cripple because it's a very reliable way of putting the attack down on the boss. Would you marry me, my queen? Another champion worthy of note in this chapter happens to be Maiden for her A3. When you put more copies of herself into herself, kind of like an orgy, and you ascend her 3 times, it becomes a 100% chance to put a 60% decreased debuff on whatever it is that you're fighting for 2 turns with a 3-turn cooldown. I know it's not 100% always going to be up, but in my opinion, it's probably the most reliable way to always get that decreased defense debuff. And lastly, the memester of a lot of the memes happens to be Shield Guard. I'm not going to really get into a lot with this champion because he truly needs a lot of gear to be any good. Moving on to chapter 10, we really only have one champion worth of note here, and that's Saurus. This guy should easily be a Pokemon, like just straight up, go Saurus, I choose you. And well, I would choose him too because his A1 hits all enemies, which is pretty darn awesome as an A1. And his A2 hits all enemies times 2. So realistically, you can't really go wrong with this champion. You're gonna select him. You're gonna say, Saurus, go! And he's gonna be like this. Saurus, Saurus. That's all I'm gonna say about that, Scoobs. Moving on to chapter 11, we only have one champion worthy of note, and I bet you can't even guess who it is. If you guessed Executioner, you would be correct because this is basically the cream of the crop as a free-to-play player because this guy can do it all. He can slice, he can dice, he can put it in there like that. He can do all kinds of stuff. Just give him a chance, okay? There's so many free-to-play players out there that are literally saying, but he's slow at clearing the waves, and I can't pick it because he's slow at clearing the waves. And I'm just like, what an oxymoron. Like, you're free to play. You're waiting on your energy to build up every single day. Who cares if this guy takes 5 minutes to clear an entire chapter? Like, who cares about that? That's all I'm going to say about that, all right? Executioner absolutely is amazing. I farmed this dude for like 2.5 weeks straight on my free-to-play account. I got all 3 stars on my normal, all 3 stars on my hard, and I'm about to get all 3 stars on my brutal as a free-to-play player with about 30 days in because I farmed Executioner because he can literally do it all. Like his Shieldtron, absolutely broken skill, and then his Tumult, absolutely great, and well, his Shield Bash is pretty darn good too. All in all, 10 out of 10 would recommend if you do not have a good wave clearing champion like Bellower or just somebody else who can do it really efficiently and do it fairly good, then I would recommend putting a 4-piece lifesteal on Executioner, either getting some attack or some defense gear on him, and just let him loose. And you'll be so shocked once you skill this champion up with what he can actually do. Finally, we are ending on chapter 12 here, and there is only one champion worthy of note here, and that's Houndspawn. Now, the only reason he's a worthy champion of note is because his A2 is the absolute most reliable way of putting a 60% decreased defense debuff on the target as a free-to-play player. I said 60%, not 30. It happens to be 75% chance on 2 different attacks to put a 60% decreased debuff. But aside from that, this guy is not really good in my opinion. I would only use him for the clan boss, specifically just for this adamantite teeth. Hopefully you got something out of this video. If there's something else you would like me to cover, or I didn't cover a champion that you thought deserved to make this list, then feel free to let me know inside the comment section. I would love to have a conversation with you, as well as I'd like to apologize about the Alina Roll champion spotlight that I did. I 1,000,000,000% forgot to mention that her A3 is kind of busted on the clan boss right now. It still needs to be fixed because it will only do a maximum of 75,000 damage on the clan boss, when realistically, it should be doing hundreds of thousands or even millions worth of damage, and it's only on the clan boss that it's actually broke. Any other place you take her, she's phenomenal. I've literally taken her to Dragon 20 stacked poisons on him, and hit that combust, and the Dragon 20 just drops over like a sack of potatoes, and she ends up being my highest DPS champion when I take her anywhere else other than clan boss. But y'all know what I'm talking about though, right? Love peace and chicken grease. Be safe, but above all, stay classy.